This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning, Arc Sunday in France. So it's kind of racing around the world, as it were, and they're lining up and getting ready to go in the Arc. The story in the Arc, number 10, Enable, won the race last year. And if you were watching the broadcast just a couple of moments ago, you heard her trainer, John Gosden, reiterate earlier in the year a little bit of a setback. So she came back most recently at Kempton, not one of the top European venues necessarily, but got a little bit of a prep race, which again, they showed that as well just a couple of minutes ago. They also showed her win in the Arc last year. Her win in the Arc last year was as a 3-year-old filly, one of the top races in the world. And as a 3-year-old filly last year, she did it pretty easily in the Arc. So folks were looking forward to this 2018 4-year-old season. But again, a little bit of a setback. And so just the prep race at Kempton back on September 8th coming into this, being lightly raced. The potential is if she runs well today, potentially comes over for a Breeders' Cup race. That would be great. She is one of the stories in the racing world. Frankie Dettori on board. John Gosden trains. She is the number 10 horse, currently 4-5. Let me alert you that 4 minutes to post. This is part of an international pick 4 that includes a couple of New York races today. So it's this race, the Arc, the Prix de l'Opera, if I'm coming close to pronouncing that correctly, but that's the next race from France. So this one and that one from France, and then the Fresette and the Flower Bowl at Belmont later this afternoon. So a little bit of an international pick 4 that you can jump in and play as well with this Arc. But a nice field of 19 in here. Let me just hit on a couple of the others and give you some odds of some notable names. Talismanic, the number 7, 14-1 for Talismanic. Cloth of Stars as well, the number 6. You saw Cloth of Stars in that replay a couple moments ago, run second to Enable in last year's Arc. Cloth of Stars, again, the number 6. Talismanic, the winner of last year's Breeders' Cup Turf, the number 7, both sitting at 14-1. So there are some options there with horses that, again, have some familiarity because of past performances. Hunting Horn from Aidan O'Brien, 16, the number 16 horse, 52-1. You get a little bit of an Aidan O'Brien runner that earlier this year ran third behind Catholic Boy and Analyze It in the Belmont Derby right here in the United States. That's Hunting Horn, the number 16, Aidan O'Brien, 52-1. Magical, the number 18, another Aidan O'Brien runner. Magical is 8-1, taking a little bit of action there. And Sea of Class, lightly raced, but 4 wins and 5 career starts over in Europe. And the number 19, Sea of Class, currently at 5-1. I think it looks like Sea of Class, well, co-second choice. With Waldgeist, the number 5 horse. So they're coming behind the gate. The Arc up next. As I say, all eyes on Enable. She is the number 10 horse. We'll send it out there as they load in so you can hear the commentary for the load in and the get-go. The Arc coming up next. We will continue with Racing Across America right after the race. Stay with us.
Jockeys that's particularly inspired and can he'll do what he has to do, I think, from that outside draw. And as you say, she's a filly that comes from a long way back, so we'll be backers of Sea of Class will be biting your nails during the race.
There's Sallowen, one of the outsiders. Oisin Murphy is on board him. Expect him to be mentioned early by Ian in his commentary as well, because I think he'll be one of the ones that'll be going forward.
Yeah, we haven't had much chat, Mike, about Neuf Bosque, or Neuf Beau, as he's called in France, trained by Pierre Brandt, a Swedish-born trainer based in Chantilly, narrowly beaten in the Grand Prix de Paris.
By
Kew Gardens, third in the Prix Niel here. He'll come on a lot from that race, but to my mind, he's not. The 3-year-old colts this year, they haven't really proved that they're quite up to the standard of the older horses, and I think he'll have his work cut out. But you know, he has experience of Longchamp. He won the Grand Prix de Paris trial here at Longchamp. He'll be one of the horses that knows this track better than anyone.
Just a shot of the filly Magical then, just there. I just think she's a strange runner here. She's never raced at this sort of distance before.
She's at over 100 to 1, which doesn't encourage me.
No, absolutely. Going forward now into the stalls there is Neuf Bosque, as you mentioned a few moments ago.
She's been well backed here in Nables. She's now odds on here in France at 1.9.
Not surprised.
Yeah, it's 6.2 for Sea of Class and then 6.5 for Volkgeist. And there were always the 3 in the market throughout the last couple of weeks, and nothing's changed. Everything else is at a very big price. 14's then for Kew Garden.
Volkgeist there in stall 13. Yeah, it's okay. There's the white face of Talismanic, and another white face there
Louis
in the
D'Or,
background as well.
Third in the Prix du Jockey Club.
Yeah, Louis D'Or.
Since a big outsider, that one.
Big outside. I can't quite see him being quite good enough. There's a lot of horses here that aren't quite up to the standard of the Nables and Sea of Class of this world. So let's hope we don't get a messy race. That's the thing I'm hoping for, a nice clean race. Just a couple more to go in, I think. There's Frankie looking relaxed as always. So why don't we hand over then for the big race commentary, the 2018 Qatar Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe here at Paris-Longchamp, to be called home, of course, by Ian Bartlett.
Thanks, Mike. 3 more, I think, to go forward. The French Derby winner, Study of Man. Blinkers the first time is waiting to go. Defoe, the black spots on the yellow jacket for Andret Zeni. Towards the outside, he's drawn in 18. Way to Paris, one of the greys. There are 4 greys. Way to Paris and Capri, lighter than the other pair of them. Still to go. There's Study of Man, and also Talismanic and Cloth of Stars. Blindfold, I think, has just been fitted there to Way to Paris, standing out the back. Cloth of Stars, distinguishing white cap for Vincent Cheminot. Not won so far this season, but a runner-up in the race 12 months ago at its temporary Chantilly home. Now Study of Man is going in, and so we have just the last one. Gerald Mosse, yellow colours, much the lightest grey. Way to Paris. That's it. They are all in and lined up for the Arc and ready to go. They're off. A race away. They get away to a fairly even line. Sea of Class just drops in towards the back of the field. Saluen, who can pace set, is one of the back markers as they begin, and Nelson in the pink colours to Clincher. Blue and red jacket against the running rail, and one of the greys, Capri, is up there. Paris Coy just restrained in behind those. Enable, the pink cap, has gone through into 5th position. Defoe, Andret Zeni is the one keeps wide from the others. Dark blue jacket, a hunting horn, is just head of Study of Man. Tiberian against the running rail, a blue jacket and pink sleeves, followed through then by Talismanic, who's around the outside of Cloth of Stars. Saluen, maroon and white against the running rail. Volkgeist, a red jacket, spot him about 6 or 7 from the right towards the back of the field with Way to Paris. Neuf Bosque is next. Kew Gardens way back in the field, accompanied with Louis D'Or. Then Sea of Class, yellow jacket, 1 from the right of picture. She is in company with Magical right at the back of the field. They head to the top of the hill in the Arc then, and it's Nelson, the pink jacket, who's leading. One of his stablemates, Capri, is behind in 2nd place. In yellow, Defoe sits 3 off the running rail in 3rd, just shading in Navel. She holds 4th just about at this stage. Clincher is against the running rail with the yellow bridle next to her. Dark blue jacket of Hunting Horn, 3 from the running rail. Pariscoy in blue and black is just in behind Tiberian. Then comes Study of Man. Talismanic is around the outside of runners with his big white face. Cloth of Stars is in company with him, and then comes Saluen as they head down to the full straight now, and it's Nelson out in front. Volkgeist is still about 5 or 6 from the back of the field in the red. Sea of Class, she is just about last of all. Magical on the extreme right is with her. At the rear of the field, Enable, poised. She's in third as they come the home turn, and it is Nelson in front to Capri, a length and a half in second place. There's almost 2 lengths to Enable in third. Clincher runs a big race against the running well Tiberian, Hunting Horn and Defoe behind these from Cloth of Stars. Padaskoya's next, and then trying to make progress is Sea of Class. As Enable now comes to chase Capri, who's got the lead. They go past Nelson. Cloth of Stars is there. Stallion Man down the centre. Sea of Class in the yellow to Waterize out in the clear. This is the last furlong. Enable is in front, chasing her home Capri. Here's Sea of Class in the yellow down the outside. She's flying at Enable and Frankie Dettori, who have the lead. The cut of waterline. Enable, she's done it just. The Sea of Class, Cloth of Stars, and then Voltmost to move into 4th position. Salut and then New Gardens was behind these, and then Capri and Study of Man, and then Wader Paris and Nelson Tiberian, Padaskoy and Talismanic and Defoe. There are more coming as well. Clincher and Nerf Boss, and then Hunting Horn. It's close. It is the 2 fillies from the UK, and it is a second victory in the race for Enable, number 10. A 6th victory for Frankie Dettori. She just beat Sea of Class. There's Cloth of Stars, the white cap. Volksgeist, the red. There's Capri. There's Salut and Kew Gardens behind those, and then Nelson. But we came to see whether Enable could win another arc. She has the unique record now. She's won quite some style at Chantilly. She's just won here on only her 2nd outing of the season. And great credit as well, James Dawes, Sea of Class, from a terrible draw, has got her through into 2nd position. She is Enable, the 8th dual winner of the Ask, and she is the 6th winner for her owner, Khalid Abdallah. So great, it's what we came to see, Mike. She did it, but only just.
It was an absolute thriller. It really was, Ian, and everything went right for Enable. I don't feel as though everything was quite right for Sea of Class, who came from an impossible position and nearly pulled it off. She flew home on the outside, but Enable had gone. Frankie had got first run, and she just held on. And Cloth of Stars almost replicating the form 12 months ago, finishing 3rd with Valgeist in 4th. Let's hear from John Costa, the winning trainer, with Fanny.
Vous voyez, il a le sourire, c'est normal, c'est extraordinaire. Hein. Enable, c'est une pouliche incroyable. Et lui, ce jockey, il améliore encore son record. 6 victoires pour l'Enfant Dettori. Regardez, il nous fait le signe.
Won our 2nd arc, and we'll see if Prince Khalid would like to try and come back and try a 3rd.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? Now you've heard it. Last year he told us maybe a double, and why not a treble? What a feat from an incredible team. Well done, Team Enable.
I just wonder whether the the fact that it was just a 2nd run of the season might have told there today. It wasn't the overpowering victory that we saw 12 months ago. I mean, there was nothing left at the end there, and Sea of Class nearly got her.
There wasn't, but she was carrying more weight than this time last season, and also it's deceiving with the very fast finish there from Sea of Class, who so nearly got there. But as we were watching the race, we saw her. We saw Sea of Class coming from so far and said, you know, there's no way she can win from them, but she so nearly did.
That was one of the greatest stretch runs I've ever seen here at Longchamp, that from Sea of Class in 2nd. It reminded me of the great Dancing Brave, who ironically carried those colours, Arthur. So credit where credit's due. The 8th dual winner, the 3rd back up from a fairly corrida back in the 30s, I think it was, and you know, and then of course Trev just a few years ago, and she might be coming back to try a 3rd in 12 months' time.
That would be just so exciting. But what a masterful ride from Frankie Dettori as well. Very similar to last year, just where he had her, and just when he went, he just knew. It's as if intuition said, I know how much filly I've got left under me at the 300.
Oh, it's been a wonderful Arc de Triomphe. 2nd, Sea of Class in 2nd, and then back in 3rd place for the 2nd year running place was Cloth of Stars. 4th, Volgeist, and then in 5th was Capri.
And the form is really, the form horses in that race have all run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 effectively.
Yeah, when you actually look well, isn't it?
Yeah, the form is stacked.
Kew Gardens might have been 6th. Let's hear from Frankie.
It's going to be in French, I think, Mike. So.
What a day! What a filly! What a record for you!
Yes,
so amazing.
Amazing. I want to say a big thank to John Gosden. He's a magician of a trainer. After 11 months, he didn't run to do this, to win 2 acts in 2 different tracks. in the old Gosden stable, and Prince Khalid. I've never been so nervous in 30 years of ARCs. This is my 30th, and this is the most I've been nervous. So much at stake today.
Congratulations, Frankie. What a record, what a jockey you are. It's just amazing what you have done today.
Yeah, as we heard from John Gosden at the early part of the programme, there was more pressure on. You just felt it from the connections, that interrupted season that she'd had. She's come in and she's done it in dramatic style.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Frankie's delighted. Already the record holder in the ARC now. Six wins. It's going to be difficult. Well, Olivier Pellier is his nearest rival among the jockeys in activity. Olivier is on 4. So I think Frankie's records is probably set to stand for a while, and maybe why not another one next year, as John Gosden said. What a thrill that would be to see this filly back. John's a man who loves a challenge, he loves his records, he loves to go down in the history books, so I would think that he would love to go out on his own as the trainer of the only triple winner of the Arc de Triomphe. But that's a long way off, Mike.
It is a long way off. We saw Trev try to do that and she couldn't quite pull it off. I think the fact that she's had such a light campaign as a 4-year-old will stand in her favour. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they do carry on with her next year, they call it a day now for the year. What more could she do but come back after an interrupted preparation and win the ARC yet again? He
has mentioned in the press this week that the Breeders' Cup may be a possibility, but I guess it depends. I would think you'll either do one or the other. If they retire at the end of this season, she could maybe go to the Breeders' Cup, although that's a double which is very, very difficult to do, the ARC and Breeders' Cup. But if they keep her in training, it would possibly be more judicious to call it a day for this season. But there are plenty of people who know more about these things than us to make these kind of decisions. Look at Frankie Dettori there, what a man.
Yeah, I wonder if the...
Wow, another scintillating performance from Enable. Almost got caught late, but keep in mind, this was only her second start of the year. Think of it. Think of a gun runner or a top U.S. or Zenyatta who maybe wins a little prep stake at Delaware against 3 outclassed rivals in September and comes back the Breeders' Cup Classic as the second start of the year. That's what this was like with Enable. You know, a little bit of a setback earlier this year, so she didn't get to the track until that prep race at Kempton with a field of 4, won that, and then comes into the ARC, wins it for the second year in a row. Frankie Dettori winning his 6th ARC. And I heard John Gosden say, have a talk with the connections and see if maybe she comes back and tries it again next year. And as the commentators were saying, it's going to be interesting to see over the next day or two what maybe the plans are. Because if they're looking to kind of wrap up the career, then maybe they come and take a shot at the Breeders' Cup. Love to see her over here. I mean, this is really one of the top horses we've seen over the past, 20 years or longer, perhaps. She's just a superstar, winning the ARC last year as a 3-year-old filly, and this year, only her second start, just holding Sea of Class off late, who herself has superstar potential. This was only for Sea of Class, only the 6th career start. She came in with 4 wins. She misses the ARC as a 3-year-old filly herself by a snudge. Running 3rd in there was Cloth of Stars, 10, 19, and 6. Boy, that was a thrilling edition of the ARC. And there's the Flying Dismount from Lafranco Dettori, Frankie Dettori, the traditional jump off the horse after the race. So congratulations to all the connections. Congratulations to you. If maybe you started out your Cross-Atlantic Pick 4 with Enable, didn't offer much value, but it was fun to watch, certainly, and a great story. All right, first segment here of the show, I do have some stakes recaps, and one of them, another very good female. And are they, maybe pop in the audio from the interview if you can pick that up.
And hopefully we'll have lots more to come next year.
We're looking forward to seeing her back here next year.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness me, wouldn't that be an amazing thing to see a rematch between these two clearly brilliant fillies?
What I really liked about that race was the evenness of the track. Every horse had every chance. What she's been able to do to come from last on the home turn and just be beaten.
Thoughts from Connections, the top performers there, as what might be next. And as I say, over the next day or two, we'll certainly get that in the racing press. All right, as I said, we're going to do some stakes replays, but I wanted to go back to one that was Friday night here, Saturday in Australia. Another brilliant racing female, and that's Winx in Australia. We're going to watch the Turnbull, a Grade 1 event in Australia. Again, it was Friday night our time. It was Saturday in Australia at Flemington. It's a 1.25 mile race, and I had them pull up the whole thing because all the post-race commentary was, wow, Winx going for her, what was it in a row, or 28th in a row. And I wanted to pull it up because there was a lot of consternation. She is sitting on the rail last, I believe now, or next to last. She's in the blue silks. You'll be able to tell when the other horse comes up. It's because she's the horse on the inside. So she's on the rail, next to last at this point. 1.25 miles, and she sits in this kind of precarious position for much of the race. And again, on your screen there, she's on the rail last. Blue silks, got a little white pom-pom on the top of the cap, and you'll be able to pick that out as they come into the stretch and turn for home. Pulled up an article this morning. Somebody had tweeted out, ran her first 800 meters in 50.82 seconds, her last 800 meters in 43.98. So just came home like an absolute jet airplane. And again, she's still on the rail, next to last. And again, the post-race commentary from the fans and the commentators was, wow, they turned for home, and she's sitting there with a lot of work to do, and it looked like that win streak may go out the window. But watch Winx as they do turn for home, and she gets set down. On target now for her 4th win in the Cox Plate. That'll be the next one. She's now making that move there, as you see, in those blue silks with the white, sitting what, about 6th right now, splits horses, and now sees some daylight. Still, you have to wonder, is she going to get up? Is she going to get it done? But when she does get that daylight, look at the acceleration here, and just manages to pull away. I guess the chart margin would have been about a length in there. Again, this was the 28th consecutive victory. This was her 21st Group 1 race. She's now won 32 of 37. That was Winx, Friday night our time, Saturday their time down in Flemington, the Grade 1. She again tries for the Cox Plate, her 4th Cox Plate, and I think it's about 3 weeks' time. And they're feeling like comes out of this race with a great shot at that. We all know the Melbourne Cup. If you're not familiar with Australian racing, the Cox Plate may actually, on the scale of things, be more prestigious than the Mel Cup. And she's won it 3 times already, and again, comes up in about 3 weeks, so that should be a lot of fun. Winx winning again a couple of nights ago as far as us Saturday, as far as Australian time. All right, going to pull up some of the stakes races from yesterday. I should mention also, towards the end of the program this morning, we'll be joined by Andy Serling. The great stakes action in New York continues this afternoon, so we'll preview some of that stakes action with Andy coming up a little bit later on. But again, as always on a Sunday, do like to pull up some of our stakes from yesterday and take a look at that action in recap, so you can watch some of these horses going forward. First up, we're going to take a look at the stretch run to the Beldame. I liked Wildcat. I said when I handicapped, the horses from South America kind of have to prove it to me. She came up in the Chuvie and did that. Disappointed in the Personal Ensign last time, but I thought she might bounce back. I thought she might be primed for a good effort, and here she is, the number 6 horse, pulling away. You have a chart margin in the end of 3 1/4 lengths for Chad Brown and Peter Brand. I mentioned it a couple times yesterday. Peter Brand is back on the scene in a big way as an owner. But it is Wildcat over Divine Miss Gray. Verve's Tale runs second. Teresa Z runs third in here. But the Story Wildcat now in her third start after having arrived from South America breaks through and does it in a pretty big way in the Beldame yesterday. A nice Grade 1 event on that stakes card at Belmont. Also want to take a look at the Hill Prince in that subdivision I talk a lot about. I really like it. The 3-year-olds on the turf in this race. I like Raging Bull. I think most everybody else did as well. 45 cents to the dollar. Raging Bull just never got into it. Raging Bull's going to be the number 3 horse in here again in those green Peter Brandt silks. You can see him on the outside here. You can see the Chicklet and Raging Bull, and just never gets it going. It will be the number 1 Have It All coming up the rail there to just catch Sand Dancer by a length. Prioritize runs third. Have It All comes in for Christophe Clement off a close-up second, and the Better Talk Now up at Saratoga. And as I say, does sneak up the rail to get it done yesterday at an $11 mutual, and it was prices underneath 23 to 1, 20 to 1 with Raging Bull finishing off the board. You had some show prices that had a little juice. I don't know if there was total bridge jumper material, but $10, $16, and $16 with the prices getting in, the odds, double-digit odds, 1, 2, 3. So some show prices there, $24 to win for Have It All. But again, a little bit of an upset yesterday in the Hill Prince as Raging Bull, who had the look of a budding superstar in the turf division, 4 wins and 5 starts, just did not have it clearly yesterday down at Belmont in the Hill Prince. We'll hit on the Champagne a little bit later on when we talk to Andy, so I'll save that one from Belmont yesterday. But we'll shift our attention over to Keeneland, and at Keeneland, I do want to mention I didn't pull up the replay from the Thoroughbred Club of America, the TCA. It was Golden Mischief for Brad Cox. I like that horse. I thought we might get a little more value, but the $11 was pretty good. When I say a little more, I really mean a little more, because I think the $11 was probably in the ballpark because it was Brad Cox. But it was a horse coming off a win at Mountaineer. So I thought the race before that was at one of the smaller venues too. See if I can pull it up quickly. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to grab it quickly. But there were 2 smaller venues where Golden Mischief had put a couple of nice wins together. And I thought, given that, the horse might get a little bit overlooked. And again, then $11 is a little bit overlooked. Miss Sunset was the favorite, wound up 4th in there. So it was a nice win for Brad Cox and Golden Mischief in the TCA. But in the First Lady, Grade 1 event on the turf, A Raving Beauty, the number 2 horse, is going to get it done for Chad Brown. Quidera was the favorite. We talked with Jeremy Plonk yesterday, and he said a number of the handicappers down at Keeneland had Quidera on top, Chad Brown, Peter Brandt, but that one disappoints a little bit. Quidera, as the 8-5 favorite, runs 7th. And I think we have the stretch run to this one. The number 2, Raving Beauty, will be the winner for Mike Dubb and company and Chad Brown. Again, Donna Bruja runs 2nd at 13 to 1. Indian Blessing runs 3rd in here. But it was Chad. It was essentially other Chad, as it were, with Quidera being 8-5 and A Raving Beauty being 3 to 1. So again, Raving Beauty for Chad Brown in the Grade 1 First Lady yesterday at Keeneland. We were having some trouble with the video there. So I will move on and take a look at some of the other action at Keeneland from yesterday, update you on that. I think, given what we saw, and again in a little bit we'll talk about the Champagne with Andy Serling. I think given what we saw with the 2-year-old race yesterday at Keeneland and what we saw last week out at Southern California, I think Complexity likely a Breeders' Cup juvenile favorite because it was an upset yesterday in the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. It's going to be Knicks Go, the number 7 horse, 70 to 1. And I don't disagree, this horse should have been a long shot, but had maybe a little more talent than that. And I'm not saying this was one you could have landed on with confidence, but maybe at the 70 to 1. What you might have picked up on was the Keeneland workouts seemed like this horse had shown an appreciation for Keeneland in the morning workouts. And so with the return to Keeneland, boy, look at that. The chart margin of 5.5. Running second was Signal Man. That was the Ken McPeak horse that we talked with Kenny about on Friday and replayed that interview yesterday. Signal Man out of the Maiden Breaker at Saratoga. You know, an okay second, well beaten, but in only the second or third career start, that was a pretty nice performance from Signal Man. Standard Deviation runs third. Sambaye runs fourth. The favorite was Dreammaker for Mark Casse, coming out of a fifth place finish in the Hopeful. That one at 5-2 winds up 12th in the field of 13. But Knicks Go in the career had broken the maiden at Ellis, had run fifth in the Sanford at Saratoga, and then had run third in the Arlington Washington Futurity on the synthetic at Arlington. None of the buyer numbers were spectacular. The career debut at Ellis was a 61. Then there were a couple of low 50s. So I think, again, given the way people pay attention to buyer figures these days, I think those buyers kind of played into the price yesterday. But it was a horse, first-time Lasix, and a bullet workout coming into it at Keeneland. And again, if you looked at those Keeneland workouts, you might have, at least if you looked at those and looked up at the board and saw 70-1, you might have thought, I'll take a little shot that this horse might appreciate the track. But again, given that upset and you know, the talent this horse had shown before, and perhaps a particular affinity for Keeneland, I'm thinking complexity goes into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile as the favorite. And as I say, we will look at that Champagne a little bit later with Andy Serling. Finally, wanted to show the Shadwell Turf Mile and talk a little handicapping here as well. Do as I say, not as I do, would be the mantra here. The winner is going to be number 1 Next Year's at 23-1. Number 3 Great Wide Open at 81-1 runs third. Kurban, the horse that I thought might be interesting coming out of the win up at Saratoga, and the Bernard Baruch runs third. So 1-3-7, Kurban third. But again, Next Year's the one wins. Great Wide Open runs second, 23-1, 81-1. What's notable about both of these? What I have been talking about for the last 2 weeks? They're both coming out of races at Kentucky Downs. And I keep saying I like these Kentucky Downs horses. There was actually a few of them in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could have done a $1 box on the Kentucky Downs horses for $20, an Exacta box. The Exacta in this race for $1 came back 984. Now, I'm saying do as I say, not as I do, because I got done with television in here yesterday. I didn't really like anything in the Shadwell Mile, and so I headed into the car and drove home while this race was going, so I didn't do it. But that is kind of an angle I've played with in years past with horses coming from Oaklawn. I like those horses when they go to other venues. And so in years past, I've kind of boxed up Oaklawn horses as they've gone to other venues and had results like this. Keep looking at these Kentucky Downs horses, because this, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, probably will happen again at some point, where you'll get some value boxing up the Kentucky Downs horses. And these two, you know, I'm not arguing again that the odds were wrong. I'm just saying I think there's more value than the odds give credit for these Kentucky Downs horses. And it's also notable they're coming out of fairly decent races at Kentucky Downs, too. The winner Next Year's won a stakes race at Kentucky Downs, a $250,000 stakes race as the favorite, and goes up at 23-1 yesterday. And Great Wide Open led for much of the way and ran second in a stakes race at Kentucky Downs last time. So again, just a little bit of an interesting angle there that, as I say, probably worth paying a little bit of attention to as we go forward over the next few weeks. Keep your eyes on those Kentucky Downs horses. All right, I'm going to take a break. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of handicapping in the next segment, give you some ideas for this afternoon. And as I say, about 10 minutes or so, Andy Serling from the New York Racing Association will join us. We'll take a look at some of the action this afternoon at Belmont. Stay tuned.
Pick, bet, and cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Looking for a fantastic meal? Stop by Malcolm's, a unique farm-to-table restaurant experience. Located at 617 Union Street in Schenectady, Malcolm's offers locally grown fresh foods, mouth-watering flavors, an enhanced drink menu, and terrific service. Malcolm's is a sure bet during Saratoga season. Make your reservation today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Lots of action, live coverage of the ARC at the beginning of the show, and some of the stakes recaps from a nice stakes day yesterday at the various venues that will have some Breeders' Cup implications. Should mention out in Southern California in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, Roy H. gets it done as the even money favorite. So again, perhaps a player in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but there clearly Breeders' Cup implications over the weekend in total, including some of the races today. So we'll keep our eyes on those as well. Give you some ideas for today. The opener at Belmont. This was the play of the day I put on the sheet, and I will admit it's a little bit of a roll of the dice in here. The opener at Belmont, 3 Outlaws at 10-1 to me is interesting. The number 5 horse by Golden Sense. If you watch enough, you know I like Golden Sense as a sire, potentially some win early horses. This is a horse that in the first 2 hasn't done much, but last time dropped in for a tag and showed a little bit of early punch before fading late. But over the last few weeks, some of these horses that are by sires I like have come onto the racetrack in start number 3 or 4 and have finally broken through at a price. And so maybe we'll get this horse with a couple of races of education under the belt and now live up to the breeding that I kind of like with Golden Sense on top. 10-1 on the morning line is a short field of 6, but I do think Lone Pioneer from Todd Pletcher will take some action, and I think the Rudy entry, the 1-1A, will also take some action. So I think we'll get some value on a horse that may be a little bit interesting. As I say, a little bit of a roll of the dice, but Lone Pioneer, it's Pletcher and Rapoli. And given those connections and a little bit of breeding, and they paid $250,000 for the horse, this one will take some action. But they paid $250,000, now they debut for $30,000. They are clearly admitting there was a mistake made there. So I'm a little bit dubious of this one in the career debut. And then a couple second-time starters from Rudy, they'll take action as well, but I don't think they're necessarily any world beaters. So we'll roll the dice a little bit in race number 1 at Belmont and see if 3 Outlaws can pull a little bit of an upset. Some of the stakes action at Belmont this afternoon. We'll give you a couple of ideas there. And when we get Andy on, we'll also talk a little bit about these races with Andy. But the Futurity coming up, Futurity this year, 6 furlongs on the grass. I have a very competitive race, but I went 3, 2, 6, and 10. I thought Veterans Beach in the first couple of starts showed some promise for David Donk. Broke the maiden up at Saratoga in the career debut at 9-1, looking pretty good in that one. And then he tried a stakes race, the Laurel Futurity, last time down at Laurel. I thought it was a pretty good third place finish for being only career start number 2. So this horse to me looks primed to run nicely this afternoon. 6-1 Veterans Beach on top, 3, 2, 6, and 10 in the futurity. And in the Frizette at Belmont Grade 1 event for the ladies, this is the ladies version of the 2-year-old Grade 1s this weekend. Yesterday, of course, the Champagne, and as I say with Andy, we'll touch on that in a few. Frizette I have at 6, 2, 8, and 7. Kofifi. I knew I would get it. And I'm just going by what Travis Stone said in the career debut, because I'm not sure there is an absolute pronunciation of this one, but Travis went with Kofefi, so I will go with that as well. But off of that career debut for Brad Cox down at Churchill, middle of September, the bullet workout coming into this, it looks like it goes through this horse. Cassie's Dreamer might be interesting for Barkley with the 3rd place finish in the Spinaway, given what Restless Rider did a couple of days ago. So Cassie's Dreamer, a little bit of a price might be interesting. Stu's Fortune for Jeremiah probably has to step it up, but I don't think that's out of the question. We might get some value there too. Jaywalk I had in the 2nd spot, and that one from John Service will certainly take some action out of the stakes win last time. But a couple of potential prices, the 8 and the 7. 6, 2, 8, and 7 for me in the Frizette this afternoon, race number 7 at Belmont Park. Taking a look at some of the action over at Keeneland, because again, a nice card there as well today too, with some stakes action down in Kentucky. But at Keeneland, going to take a look at the 5th race. Again, if you watched Racing Across America yesterday, you heard our interview with Ken McPeak. We talked about a lot of his horses, but I wanted to bring up this race because Harvey Wallbanger is in here in Liberty's Pursuit. Harvey Wallbanger had a little bit of clocker buzz up at Saratoga. Went off to 33-1 despite that, but ran a good 2nd in the career debut behind Complexity. Now, given what Complexity did yesterday in the Champagne, I think the bettors will see that, and Harvey Wallbanger will take some action. I'm not sure what kind of value we'll get there, but as I talked to Ken McPeak on Friday and again replayed it yesterday, he certainly thinks Harvey Wallbanger is in a good spot, but he really, it seemed to like Liberty's Pursuit. They paid $850,000 for this son of Curlin. Nice steady string of workouts underneath. From the way Ken was talking, I put Liberty's Pursuit on top and Harvey Wallbanger underneath. The Pletcher horse, Cutting Humor, clearly going to take a lot of action. But in the 5th at Keeneland, I went 11, 5, 7, and 10. Race number 8 at Keeneland on this Sunday afternoon. The 8th race is the Bourbon, and again, we talked with Ken McPeak about Salvatore Mundi. I didn't put that one in my mix. We'll see how that one runs this afternoon, but for me, in the Bourbon, I went 11, 4, 1, and 10. Tracksmith on top for Joe Sharp. Comes in off a nice 2nd place finish in a stakes race at Kentucky Downs. $390,000 up for grabs in the Kentucky Juvenile last time. Going a mile at Kentucky Downs. I think that'll have Tracksmith set up nicely for this afternoon. Concrete Rose in the 2nd spot off a good 3rd place finish up at Saratoga. Off a good win, in the up at Saratoga in the career debut. Was sitting 3rd as they kind of turned for home and then made a nice little run in the stretch. And I like that. It was at 5.5 furlongs, but this horse kind of sat back and made a run. So we know this is a horse that is not a lead for the need for the lead type, which is the case a lot of times in the 2-year-old sprint races. But Concrete Rose off the closing effort up at Saratoga gets in the mix. And then War of Will, good 2nd last time in a stakes race for Mark Cassie, so already some stakes experience. In the Bourbon, 11, 4, 1, and 10. And finally, in the Spinster this afternoon, at Keeneland, Grade 1 event for the ladies, $500,000 up for grabs in the Spinster. I have it 8, 11, 4, and 7. The number 10 Pacific Wind from Chad Brown and Peter Brandt scares me a little bit. I didn't put that in the mix, but I put Champagne Problems on top. 8-1, and I just kind of parsed this race out, and I was looking at the numbers, the buyers, and I thought the 8 and the 11 buyer-wise were in pretty good form right now, so I tilted in that direction. That said, Eskimo Kisses comes out of a triple-digit buyer win in the Alabama. If this horse can string another effort like that together. But again, we talked with Ken McPeak and had that interview yesterday. You could tell the mile and an eighth is less attractive to him than the mile and a quarter of the Alabama last time. And it's funny, if you watch the replay of the Alabama, which we played during the interview, you can see at the 8th pole, Eskimo Kisses pulls away from the field. It's a real race until they get to the 8th pole, and she relishes that last furlong. So we'll see with the only 9 furlongs today. We'll see what Eskimo Kisses can do. But in the Spinster at Keeneland, for me, a late 8, 11, 4, and 7. 8, 11, 4, and 7 at Keeneland with some nice stakes action again on this Sunday afternoon. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Andy Serling from the New York Racing Association will get some of his thoughts from yesterday and some of his thoughts for this afternoon as well. Stay tuned.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
If you like to play the Late Pick 5, here's some great news. Capital OTB is now accepting internet wagering on NYRA's Late Pick 5 at Saratoga on all platforms and all digital devices. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com, look for the icon, and there you go. If you're playing on one of your digital devices, just open your Capital OTB Bet icon, click on the menu button, and scroll down to find the Late Pick 5. Late Pick 5 wagering, now at Capital OTB.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Andy Serling from the New York Racing Association. Talk a little bit about the nice stakes weekend down there. Andy, good morning.
Morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Before we talk Belmont, I'll ask, about 45 minutes ago, did you watch Enable? That was impressive.
She's a very, very good horse. She's obviously not the horse she was last year. And had she, the fact that she's able to just come back and win a race like the Arc, which is arguably maybe as tough a race as there is to win in the world, off of just one race in close to a year is nothing short of remarkable. It was probably not the most star-studded edition of the Arc de Triomphe, but her accomplishment was terrific. She's obviously a very good horse. She's not the Enable of last year, but she still won, which is a real credit to her.
But can you say that for certain, given that she came off a layoff with obviously a little bit of a setback, and preps at Kempton against a field of three?
As I said, I thought that this was a remarkable achievement, considering she was just second off in a sustained layoff. But I don't think the Enable that won today is the equivalent of the Enable that ran last year. Yes, I can say that. Okay. It's horse racing. Is it for certain? No. Okay. But I think it's a reasonable thing to say. I don't think anybody sane would disagree with that. Doesn't mean that she couldn't get back to that great form of last year, though I think that's highly unlikely, but she's a remarkably good filly.
Yeah, it was certainly a remarkable performance, is the way to put it. I think Sia Class is going to turn out to be a nice horse too, and so to beat that one by a little bit of a margin, I thought was a nice effort. But it wasn't as impressive as last year, certainly. But again, only the second start of the year. It's going to be fun to see what the decision with her is now. All right, I wanted to go back to yesterday too before we get to this afternoon. Talk a little bit about some of the stakes, but we watched some of the stakes earlier, but I saved the Champagne for you. And I mentioned, given what we saw with the 2-year-olds in Southern California last week and the Breeders' Futurity yesterday at Keeneland, we're going to watch the stretch run now of the Champagne, and it's going to be number 4, Complexity. I would have to guess that, as I say, given what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, Complexity now goes into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile as the favorite.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess he is. I mean, obviously, the horse in Kentucky is not going to be the favorite. That was kind of an eyesore, but Complexity was terrific yesterday. Horses that do what he did, which is sort of outrun the field the whole way around the track. They can go both ways, right? Sometimes they're remarkably talented horses, and they're just sort of able to do that, at least at this point in their careers, and we've seen that some very good horses over the years. And, sometimes they're a horse that's going to get in a different situation. The Breeders' Cup's around 2 turns, and maybe there'll be a stronger speed, or maybe he'll get cooked a little bit and they won't respond. I mean, obviously, I'd like to see this horse go on and do very well and win the Breeders' Cup. He was very, very impressive yesterday, and Shook's horse ran extremely well. I think he was second best, and I think if you take a careful look at the race, you'll see that he really wasn't gaining on the winner late, but he had he stumbled a bit at the start. It was an odd stumble. It didn't sort of make him pull up. He ended up dropping back. Whether or not that was the intention or not, I don't know. Probably better off, because I don't know if he wanted to chase the Complexity. But he ran very well to be second. I think both of them have to be considered major players going to the Breeders' Cup. But Complexity had him well at bay at the end, and he was galloping out well. So I think that's a good indication for him going forward, but you just don't know. But yeah, I was very impressed by him.
All right, let's move on to this afternoon, get some of your thoughts on the stakes action today. And we should remind people there is also racing in New York tomorrow on Columbus Day, correct?
There is. 10-race card. 10th race, maybe the best race of the day, so people need to stick around, play the whole card.
Very good. All right, but on this Sunday afternoon, nice stakes action as well. We'll start out taking a look at the Futurity on the grass, 6 furlongs. Top of the page, I've written competitive. While we talk, I'm going to pull up the Laurel Futurity. Order and Law is going to win. Scrap Copper runs second. And Veterans Beach, the number 5 horse, runs third. I put that one on top. I thought this race may have Veterans Beach primed for a good effort. Won the career debut up at Saratoga in the prior start. The Beyer number moved forward in start number 2 that we're going to take a look at here. So I put that one on top. For me, it was 3, 2, 6, and 10. What do you think of the Futurity?
Yeah, I saw it very differently.
Okay.
I didn't like the horses out of the Laurel Futurity. That was an unbelievable trip in that race. He ran fast enough. Swamp Rat's probably the horse to beat in here. The Scratch or Credit Swap is a big scratch because he was going to be not the favorite, certainly one of the favorites in here. I took a shot with 11, Uncle Benny, who does have the pedigree to move forward in the turf and is Jason Service, and he ran adequately on the dirt in his first start. And if I'm right that he's a horse that's more suited to the turf, then he'll move forward, and I think he'll turn out to be very good in here. So I took the 11 Uncle Benny over the 10 Swamp Rat, and threw in Neverland Rock. The European don't really know what to make of him exactly, but he kept some good company overseas. Don't think he's meeting killers here. And the filly apparently is going to run here and not tomorrow, because at least unless she scratched later, because she was not scratched early. So I put Tragic, who just couldn't get the mile last time against the boys, but she's obviously got some talent. So I went 11, 10, 1, 6.
All right, let's move on to the Frizette Grade 1 event. $400,000 up for grabs, going the 1-turn mile for the 2-year-old fillies. Going to pull up that maiden special from Churchill on September 16th. Kofefi is going to be the winner, the number 5. I thought the Brad Cox trainee off of that one, the Bullet Workout coming in, going to be the horse to beat this afternoon. So for me in the Frizette, 6, 2, 8, and 7. I thought the 7 and the 8 are horses that I could both make arguments for as a little bit of a price to throw in the mix. But what did you think in the Frizette?
Well, I can't argue that Kofefi is the horse to beat. I mean, Brad Cox actually has terrific numbers with horses off maiden wins making their second start. Now, she's coming back for 21 days, which I think has to be considered at least a bit of a concern. But clearly she's good, and she may just be better than these horses. Graceful Princess is scratched for those that may be unaware. I did pick Cassie's Dreamer on top, not because I think she's the likeliest winner, but because I think she'll be a very strong price. And I thought she ran very well last time and improved for Barclay Tagg, and she should handle the mile. And if she takes another step forward, she can win. I was going to use Cassie's Dreamer, the 6 Kofefi, and the 2 Jaywalk. I thought Nona Madeline ran very well in the spin away. I just wonder if a mile's too far for her, but I don't think she's totally impossible.
Yeah,
if I could stay alive in the second leg of this transatlantic pick 4 in the Prix de l'Opera being run right now at Longchamp, then I'll be alive to 2, 4, 6, 7.
And again, I thought the 7 and the 8 were interesting. I thought Jeremiah's horse probably has to step it up, but I think that's possible. But yeah, Cassie's Dreamer, with the 3rd last time in the spinaway behind Restless Rider, and given what she did the other day, she may be the favorite on the girls' side in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to. I don't worry about these races until they're run. Until I get to see the PPs.
All right, let's move on to
I can't pick out the favorite when I have the PPs in front of me for a race in New York. I can't figure it out.
I hear you.
A month in advance.
I hear you. All right, the Flower Bowl, another grade 1 on the Nice Stakes weekend down in New York. Field of 7 in here. Going to pull up the Bev D. It's going to be Sister Charlie, the number 3 horse, over number 7, 4-Star Crook. Couple of Chads. It was actually a Chad trifecta in the Beverly D. But the number 7, 4-Star Crook comes back this afternoon in the Flower Bowl, and I put that one on top. I have it 7, 3, 2, and 4. What do you think in the Flower Bowl?
I thought it was between the 2 Chads. I was going to use I was going to try the horse on the rail on the moon again. It's just been so unlucky in all of her races. I mean, slow pace in the last race, just sort of completely did her in and kind of gave her no chance. I thought that she was. I thought she was interesting at a price. I don't know if she can beat Sister Charlie. I'm not Sister Charlie. Excuse me. 4-Star Crook. She's been terrific, and she's the horse to beat on the outside. But I thought the horse in the rail on the moon again had a chance to beat her and be a much better price. And she was totally blocked in this sort of preposterous trip. 2 back, and she should have won that race for fun. And last time that crazy slow pace. So I thought believe it or not, Chad Brown has a very strong hand in a big turf race in New York with a Billy O'Mare.
Yeah, amazing, right?
Hard to believe. It so rarely happens.
Before we let you go, got a minute left. Let's go back to last week and just your thoughts on the Jockey Club Gold Cup and Diversify, kind of taking the worst of it on the front end. But Discreet Lover, a good story on the win end there. Your thoughts last weekend?
Listen, horses like Discreet Lover race like this are great stories, right? I mean, the super low profile connections, winning a big race like that. I mean, that's something that it's really, I mean, not to be too corny, it is one of the things that makes racing great, right? You can have guys who spend millions and millions of dollars on horses and they achieve a lot of success, but you can have people that are spending pennies, right, and win a big race like that. And I never like to overlook that because it makes the rest of us, the rest of us feel like we have a chance in life in horse racing, right? It sort of equates everybody. And he's a horse that, was he best in the race? No, he's probably 3rd or 4th best. But he's a horse who's been hanging around in big races, running well consistently, being sort of 3rd or 4th best in tough fields, that keeps trying and taking shots, and he got a very fortunate scenario in this race, right? And it worked out, so good for them, and I thought it was great. I mean, I'm sorry about Diversify. Rick Violet and Ralph Evans are people I'm friendly with and like a great deal, and I think he's a terrific horse. I would never criticize Irad. I mean, this is the way you ride the horse.
Yeah.
To criticize, these guys that say to me, he went too fast in that race. It's like, well, he didn't go too fast when he went 46 in the Suburban he won. You got to dance the girl that brought you there. I thought Mendelssohn ran terrific in there, so we'll see going to the Breeders' Cup. I mean, what I like is this Breeders' Cup Classic is the most wide-open Breeders' Cup Classic we've had in a long, long time. I mean, you look at this race and you feel like there's nobody you like, which means you can like anybody.
Yeah, Mind Your Biscuits actually looked pretty good on the track in the Lucas Classic, so that bodes well for him. And just finally, Imperial Hint, I heard you guys talking on the pregame show. You actually may have mentioned it on one of the afternoon programs leading up to it, that Imperial Hint, the race up at Saratoga, wasn't that strong a field, but maybe not that strong a field last weekend either. And so we said it on our handicapping show here as well. Given all that, he was kind of a lock. And I don't know whether I've ever seen a jockey gear down as much in the last 1/8 of a mile as happened with Imperial Hint last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of seems to do things nowadays that we didn't do in the past, for better or for worse. He's a very good horse. It's so hard to judge him. And we thought the field for the Vanderbilt was weak, and then we ran the Vosburg.
Yeah.
It felt like the Vanderbilt was a really strong group. He's a very good horse. He was much more impressive even in that situation than I think Dale Roman's horse, Promises Fulfilled, was in winning his prep in the Phoenix. And I'm a fan of Promises Fulfilled and won't be surprised if he runs well in the Breeders' Cup. But looking at those two races, it feels like Imperial Hints the one you want the most. Roy H. ran well in California, so if he's back in form, he's a player as well. We'll see. The last thing I want to do is on October 7th say this is my horse in the Breeders' Cup. And that's just the dumbest way for somebody to play and the surest way to lose your money.
Yeah.
There's so much can happen between now and then, and you just you're going to get the PPs, and you sort of start perusing them when they start putting the races together and forming your opinions and not tying yourself to one horse. You tie yourself to one horse, you mentally don't allow yourself the opportunity to like other horses.
Yeah, you can't get married. You can't get married. That's the same thing in the
Not worth
Triple
it.
Crown Trail.
Yeah, just you see the horses and you acquire as much information, but at least for me, I don't, I can't speak for everybody. But I want to see them all laid out on the paper in front of me, right?
Yeah.
And put them all together and think, I thought this horse was really good. Now I'm looking at him against this bunch, and I think, you know what, not as good as I thought.
Yeah.
And here's a horse that, and sometimes you find yourself. I think one of the great things in the game is when you find yourself liking a horse that you had not liked in the past. Right? And you realize, it's too hard in this horse. Those horses have a tendency to run pretty well.
I learned that lesson years ago when I first got in the game and I still remember the horse. There was a trotter up at the harness track called King Prom. And I bet it, and it lost. And finally I scored on it at like $5. So by the time it won, everybody was on it and there was no value.
Cool.
Yeah, you can't get married.
That's another story. That's you bet them, they're your horse, and when they're everybody's horse, you can't bet them. My favorite horse in the harness track back in the 70s was a horse named Sirota Anderson, that some of your listeners might remember.
Yeah, very good.
He actually was a very good horse at Sarah Harness. I think Del McTavish rode him. He ended up going down to New York and winning repeatedly at Yonkers, and I think he won like a huge race in the Meadowlands once.
Del McTavish, now there's a blast from the past.
I can pull him out, believe me. I can pull him out with the best of them.
Andy, we'll let you go because I know obviously a busy day ahead. But before we let you go, I just want to again tip my cap to you. We've done it up at Saratoga, done it many times. But I know you wound up the MSG Fox season. I guess you have one more coming up in a couple, 2-3 weeks. 2 more coming up, great. But I know the regular broadcast wound up recently. And again, you guys do a great job. I don't get to see it as often as I would like at Saratoga, because I'm typically at the track. Sometimes I'll catch the replay, but this time of year I've gotten to watch a lot of them, and you guys do a great job. And it was fun the last couple of episodes, Frank Miramati on board as well. But again, pass on my congratulations to everybody.
Thanks, Seth. You guys do a great job as well. I have to run.
All right, appreciate it. Andy, take it
All
easy.
Right. Thanks. Man.
Andy Serling from the New York Racing Association. And I'll wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. Do want to hit you with some of the promos and events coming up. Don't forget, it is a football Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. That means you can watch all the games and catch all the racing action as well. That's every Sunday throughout the NFL season. Wear a jersey, you get in for free. Put your name on a square, you can win a prize. Sundays here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. As I mentioned with Andy, racing in New York, some of the other venues you wouldn't expect normally on a Monday, but it's Columbus Day, the holiday tomorrow, and that means some great racing at various venues. And there is also a $100 online knockout challenge via Capital OTB. Check out the website for more information on that. Coming up this Friday, there'll be a $300 bankroll. I will be live at the Boulevard Bowl right here in Schenectady. Swing down and say hello to us as we will be playing for some patrons with a $300 Boulevard Bowl bankroll. Maybe I'll go out and try to roll a strike as well. I would think that would be a long shot, however, because I don't know whether I have bowled since maybe I was 12 years old at another friend's birthday party or something, but hey, maybe I'll give it a shot. Also coming up on Friday, the Bounty Bet is back. Jump in and play the Bounty Bet Pick 4 with your Capital OTB Bet account and get a shot at that money. And coming up next Saturday, $100 Win-A-Bet contest, and also the Road to Vegas online contest comes up as well. You can catch up with all the promos and events via CapitalOTB.com. Going to wrap it up for this edition of Racing Across America, but we'll be back in an hour and a half, couple hours with OTB Live for this Sunday afternoon. We'll take a look at some of the action. Yesterday was a pretty good day. We'll see if we can keep it rolling on Sunday afternoon. So wrapping it up for Racing Across America, I want to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. Enjoy the races this afternoon. Again, tune back in a couple hours, and hopefully I can give some successful ideas on that. And so we'll see you then. Stay tuned.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.